It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a very common adaptation to a narcissistic or psychopathic personality that is very power driven, that is very emotionally manipulative driven, that is very domineering driven. They are driven to be the center of attention. Somebody who has a pathological sense of self-importance, and with a lack of empathy, but also the lack of empathy can also hide and conceal a very covert narcissist tendency, which is sort of an underhanded or not obvious to the eye pathological sense of self-importance, which then creates an adaptation from a lot of other people to accommodate or adjust to their pathological self-importance. So in the covert narcissist, it's not always what they speak out loud that they need or communicate. There's often a very pronounced miscommunication and a communication deficit. And I'm going to get started really on that topic here today, and then how individuals then, in order to accommodate, adjust to them, begin to also develop as if personalities. And before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to those of you who have recently donated to the channel, including a lovely viewer in Germany. It's such an honor and a privilege to be able to discuss and to assist and provide some resources and tools to help you sort out some very painful and difficult relationship issues that hopefully things are very finally coming to light. I really respect and honor your discipline, your courage, and your forthright vision towards what you deserve, and really kind of recovering of that sense of wholeness where you really deserve to live from and dream from moving forward. So thank you so much for your donations and your inquiries. And yes, you can donate to the channel here. Right on the home tab, there's a very small button on the right-hand side where you can make a donation to PayPal at peaceandharmonynow@gmail.com. If I have been a resource or a lifeline for you or provided some tools or insights to help you move forward, please feel free to donate and give back to the channel, to give to the community. I definitely appreciate that and value your viewership and your donations. Thank you so much. So we're getting started now a little bit more in understanding the covert narcissist and the psychopath. I am kind of bundling these together for a very specific reason, because we're really addressing the severity of this sort of cluster B personality disorder on the channel, and then its impact on those individuals who are in families, in relationships, in workplaces with these types of individuals, in neighborhoods, perhaps previous relationships that are now coming to light for you, and you're realizing the negative ramifications or rippling effect that has occurred in your life. And I want to really look now at sort of the adjustment or accommodations that people tend to make in order to accommodate and deal with and cope with a covert narcissist, somebody who has a pathological sense of self-importance and a lack of empathy, and really sets up a very sort of invisible but stronghold wall and lack of communication, lack of appreciation, most importantly, while having kind of a covert expectation and sort of assimilation through their body language, and more their withholding of information is what is received unconsciously by the individual as, you are not enough, or you are not good enough, or you are less than, or you have less than. So it can be less intelligence, less energy, less length to your hair, less, color of your skin, not enough money, not enough character, not enough talent, not enough sex appeal, whatever it is. There's an assimilation or kind of an osmosis that people begin to absorb or take in when they're in a relationship with a covert narcissist or a psychopath. And so people oftentimes, as we talk about the unconscious, the subconscious, as well as the conscious mind, and looking at the conscious mind is what you will feel or are able to acknowledge just in your day-to-day thoughts. So much so is going underneath the surface. In fact, it's thought that only 3 to 5% of what is really taking place within the mind itself is conscious awareness. That 95 to 97% is unconscious or subconscious, or it's on our automatic, our automatic nervous system. So in other words, the brain that's running the heart, that, you don't have to consciously think heartbeat, heartbeat. You don't have to consciously think, take a breath. And so we're talking really about that unconscious that tends to adjust and adapt to these types of individuals and what you kind of see pronounced or developing in your life. And that oftentimes is what Alice Miller very aptly describes in her book, Drama of the Gifted Child, is the development of an as-if personality. So, there's this unconscious need to pacify this person because oftentimes your survival, your happiness, or some sort of fulfillment, or some sort of interdependency is interwoven in this relationship. For example, if this is your parent and you relied on them for your food, clothing, and shelter as a child. If this is your spouse, you rely on them for your food and, clothing and shelter. This is at your workplace. This is in your family, and you need there to be harmony to get along. You're going to have to consciously adjust and adapt to accommodate to this pathology. And oftentimes it comes with a number of different, very nuanced sort of emotions. But most importantly, the development of an external shell to please the narcissist and subjugate the needs of yourself. So the need to be validated, the need to be heard, the need to be touched, the need to be smiled to, the need to have a safe environment, the need to feel some sort of certainty, and to have a sense of knowingness in the relationship that all of a sudden things aren't going to burst into a rage or come tumbling down the cliff, or you're going to be ignored, or given a mean and dirty look. You talk about the looks that kill. What are they killing? The human spirit, the human heart. Where does the core of your energy come from? It comes from your core. The core of your energy comes from your core. Your authentic self is coming from your heart space and your spirit. Not up in the mind, not up in sort of this intellectualization. It's coming from the heart center where there's most of the energy, permeating from that and, emanating out, which is the seat really of our emotions as well as in the limbic brain. So when we talk about this adaptation, oftentimes people as supply will need to develop an as-if personality. Seem as if everything is okay. Smile as if everything is all right. Continue to go to school and continue in the college as if this is the right thing to do. Following the wrong career, following the wrong religion, following the wrong talent, following the wrong group of friends, following the wrong music, eating the wrong things, dressing the wrong way, not developing the true inner you, that inner core, the authentic self, but it's developing that next level, that next layer. And Vincent Genna has called it the environmental made mind, I believe so. I remember going to one of his workshops and him talking about this. He's a spiritual teacher. And he talks about that kind of second layer. And I think, Sigmund Freud, the great father of psychoanalysis, would call it the ego. And then, you've got the id, which is that raw sort of instinctive energy, which is kind of the very childlike. The ego, which is then reality based, and then the superego, which is like the conscious or higher consciousness mind, which is, morally based and, is the learned center oftentimes where, you're engaging in that higher learning and that higher moral judgment. But that as if personality can develop into be almost a true identity. And what happens in the relationship with a narcissist is that true authentic self, that true authentic source, that true voice, that true experience firsthand, raw with nature. So being fearful, being jealous, being sad, being depressed, wanting to learn, feeling in that primordial state that I don't know yet and I want to learn, that oftentimes that seat or that experience or being in life is not allowed to coexist with a narcissist because they're trying to quench it down. So then the development, is then mirrored back. You're mirrored back to you then almost a false feeling of reality, or as if they're not really interacting with the real you. And so then what is reflected back to you is almost like on a day-to-day basis has to be earned. There's so much uncertainty. There's so much accommodating that has to be done to appease the needs of the narcissist while suppressing your own, that this constant state of uncertainty, not knowing, I'm not good enough, are they going to yell at me? Am I going to have to fight back about something? Do I have to explain and justify something? I can't just be allowed to express myself without feeling like I'm not articulate enough. I don't have the right ideas. There's all sorts of nuanced and, sort of emotions that are in that whole collaborating in that whole experience of the as if personality, which is, a temporary feeling of I have to do this, or this is in the greatest good of the relationship. But eventually that needs to be broken free and shed free and shaken out of to really engage in truth with life, and then have life respond to the true authentic you. In other words, it's like having being a specific way to please somebody, but it's not the real you. But getting reinforced, it's like this. It's almost as if the child who is reinforced with candy for not going to school. Even the child needs to go to school. They need to be open. They need to be impressionable. The teacher needs to meet them where they are and accept them and embrace them for wherever it is that they're at in terms of learning or expressing their emotions or what they've seen through their own history of life, their own experiences, and then expressing and coming from that and then validated by the teacher. It's as if, that child is needing that experience. They're said, nope, you're going to go to a detour. Why don't you please this person? Instead of learning, we're going to give you maybe some candy. So then the kid, continues to feed, take that candy as the positive reinforcement. Maybe they go and they do this, that, or the other thing, but the child is kind of missing that experience where they need to be listened to, validated, embraced, and then engaged with in that healthy, open forum, which then is the seed of growing. And then they take that out into the class, their school, the universe, their job, etc., for their relationships. So it's like a severing off. It's like a literally, cutting off of that true source and then the who you really are. And we hear about the codependent. We hear about the people pleasing. We feel, we hear about that experience, and oftentimes that situation of codependency and dependency versus independency is what is created as a ramification or a result. So once you are then able to separate from the cause, you're able to then live the life that you're meant to be. So a lot of people find themselves really in the wrong place in their life, with the wrong person, with the wrong people, with the wrong school, the wrong neighborhood, the wrong job, and they're wondering how they got there, because they were reinforced little by little along the way. Given the candy when you miss school, given the this, given the that, whatever it is, you are reinforced for adapting to the covert narcissist rather than being adapted and validated for the true you. And so that is the experience. And then surrounding yourself, as we talk about in the recovery journal, the recovery pages in the morning, the recovery date, the recovery gift, where you are embracing that true inner source, following up with that and coming out into that healed space little by little, even if it begins very solitary, but then getting a chance to take that real, genuine core you and interact with that in a safe place with safe people who are not narcissistic, those people who do express and live by empathy, and then being able to engage and exercise that little by little so you can begin to accumulate more experiences on that, following up on your interests. So again, as we ask those questions and get to the astralmations where you're getting down to the core of that. And so, it's really important to understand that is oftentimes the missing link, is that Alice Miller, she says, you cannot develop and differentiate a self, a true self, because they're unable to live it. So if you've been in a situation where you've been unable to live it, it's time unequivocally to address that reality 100%. Acknowledge it and say enough is enough suffering, enough saying why me. It's time to shed that relationship and that tenet and that approach to thinking that you have to approach life in that way, because life wants you just how you are. Life wants you who you are, the way that you speak, the way that you feel, the way that you think. It wants you to grow from that and develop those inner interests and talents and things that that catch your eye and that catch your ear that you have then suppressed or repressed, and to live from that and then begin to share with others on that level. It begins oftentimes very slowly, but once you stay with it and stay focused and begin to live from that source, that authentic core, that true self, getting a chance to speak it out, embrace it out, give handshakes, speak from the I am from that, you'll begin to bring that more to life, and it'll become really like it'll begin like one little tiny flicker of a flame, or like one little weak flame, but then it'll become like a whole little campfire of heat and energy and burning forth, and that flame will become like an eternal flame. You'll always be able to come back to that no matter what happens in the world. You won't define it as, look at that car, I have less than. Look at that whatever, I have less than. Look at that job, I have less than. You'll no longer differentiate or define that, because you know the inner you is where it's at, and then beginning to realize that that is where life wants you and will reinforce you and will bring abundance to that authentic self. It's important to nurture, coddle, and attend to that experience on a daily basis, and definitely keep up the recovery date for at least 2 to 3 hours where you can go out and experience that and interact with that in the world, even if it's very solitary and very quiet and very just kind of filling up that inner reservoir. That absolutely is what is required. Because otherwise you will feel like you're complaining of a sense of emptiness, despondency, lack of energy. It's because that true inner flame is not being acknowledged, attended to, and fanned the flames. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and have a wonderful day.